Welcome to my first podcast that I'm hosting. Trophy moments and a few firsts with me, Keith Baldwin. And we're coming to you from the top of the Pyramid Club in Philadelphia here. And thank you to my producer, Vince Quinn, and SBX Promotions, or Productions, I should say, and the Pyramid Club for this opportunity. The inspiration for this book is my first guest. And my first guest is Cahn. And a number of the people that would be seeing this probably already know her, but I will give her an introduction nonetheless. So you know her as an investigative reporter, an Emmy-winning one. I'm not sure if you know that she is a motivational speaker. She's an author of I Dare Me, where how I rebooted and recharged my life by doing something new every day. And I'll get to that in a moment. And she's also a cancer survivor, which was part of her story in daring herself to move forward and do something new. And currently, I think this is correct, you're the Director of Career Services for Temple University, Klein College of Media and Communications. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Welcome.
It barely compares to what you're doing, dude.
No, I don't have all those things behind me.
You have lots of things behind you. And so it is a pleasure to be with you, and I'm honored to be your first podcast host. It's
so
great.
If I can explain briefly, and then I will shut up and
Sure.
ask you the questions. I found myself in a room on December 5th, 2019, where you stood in front of 100 and so people and dared the room to do something new. And I just happened to be, that day, lucky enough to be dared.
Oh.
And I was inspired, and I wrote it down, and it gave me my own journey. And I went on 2020 to my leap year of first, where I did something every day for the first time in my life. And it's become quite a journey, and I pursue them to this day, and I thank you for that.
Yeah. You are so welcome, and I'm so glad if I played any role in this, that being a spark for you. You know, as we were saying, I feel like you're an adventurous person to begin with, and you came in with an open mind and a point where you were ready for something. And, you know,
Little did I know, though,
yeah,
the journey.
Yeah, and you went on quite an amazing one, your own year of firsts. I mean, you've astounded me with the things you've done, not to mention that you went on this journey of first during the pandemic, you know, having to pull your company through. All your employers.
You asked me at one point, how did those first affect you? And I'd like to share.
Yeah.
It gave me momentum, a different attitude. So I looked at those challenges as not, woe is me. It's like, oh, that's a first. And it gave me a different mindset that you instilled in me by doing those firsts, by daring me.
Well, you were truly open to that challenge, to the dare. And I'm going to be honest with you, when you came up to me after I talked about doing 365 firsts and the polar bear plunge and zip lining across crocodile-infested lakes and eating scorpions and all this crazy stuff.
I love the eating scorpion one. Yeah. She ate a scorpion. I have not done that yet.
And, you know, a lot of people in the audience went, oh, that's really interesting. And you came up and said, I'm doing that. I'm going to do my own 365 firsts. And I said, well, that's really nice, Keith Baldwin. let me know, because I've heard that before.
I'm sure you have.
But you did it. And you didn't just do it. I mean, you did it in a big way. You know, everything from sleeping on the street with the homeless.
You know how you inspired that.
Oh.
Do you remember your Rittenhouse Square story?
Yes.
You told that in front of the group, and you got emotional.
Yeah.
Telling that story.
Yeah. Talking to strangers, having a life conversation. But
with a homeless person.
Well, you know, the truth, I don't even know for sure what his circumstances were. But spending the night on the streets of Philadelphia, that is a whole different.
It gives you great appreciation and gratitude
Yeah.
for what you have.
Yeah, it really does. But I think what we both know, the life lesson of doing first-time experiences is that we should never stop growing. We should never stop learning, that we live our best lives when we are pushing outside our comfort zone and we're trying new things, and that we get stuck.
Yep.
And I think you might have been feeling a little stuck. Not stuck. You weren't unhappy, I don't think.
No.
But you were like, what's next? What comes? I've done so much. What comes next? And sometimes we don't know what should come next. And that's why this vast 365 menu of whatever is
crazy
new,
stuff.
That's what you should do.
Yes.
Some things big, some things small.
Very small. Yep.
Like the day you walked in your wife's heels, I mean,
I wanted to.
That always gets a laugh.
I was curious about, I can't imagine walking in heels all day. I don't know how you do it.
It really is.
It gave me a great appreciation for that.
Yes, you have empathy now.
I have empathy.
I appreciate that you gave that a try.
So we're going to go to this theme of trophy moments.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you, what was your trophy moment? I'm going to go in your past. Was it your first award that you got in grade school, a certificate? Was it, you're an Emmy award-winning journalist? Was it your first Emmy, your last Emmy? What was it?
Well, you mentioned that I am a cancer survivor, and I am a 2-time cancer survivor. And I was thinking of you today because, of course, you have a trophy business.
Yes.
Right? And I recently broke the trophy that is most dear to me, which is, and I have won a number of Emmys and awards for reporting, but one means the most. And it's from 1991. I was awarded an Emmy for Outstanding Documentary Program, Breast Cancer, My Personal Story. This is one of the oldest Emmys I have.
It's not your first Emmy, or is it?
If it wasn't my first, it was my second.
Okay.
But the one that's most important to me, because when I was 35, with no breast cancer in my family, I felt a lump, and I went to a doctor who told me I had a negative mammogram, and there was nothing wrong with me. And so I walked around with this thing for 6 months.
Oh, I didn't know this story.
Yeah, until this thing kept growing, and I finally got back to a breast surgeon who diagnosed me with an aggressive breast cancer. Oh. And you can imagine,
I can't imagine.
I'm a young mom, no breast cancer in my family, 35 years old.
How old was your daughter?
So she was 5.
Oh, jeez.
I terrified, of course. I had a mastectomy. I had chemotherapy. I had reconstruction. But
and you took your viewers on this journey with you.
And the reason I decided to do that was, quite honestly, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know if I would make it. They were just learning about young women with breast cancer back then. And mammography was not what it is today. And at the time, there were reports that young women were dying of breast cancer who had negative mammograms. Oh. And I thought, you know what? I am going to scream bloody murder about this.
You had a platform.
I had a platform. I had to convince the station to actually let me do this, because women didn't talk about breast cancer then. It was like this. It was before all the pink ribbons and all the marches and everything. And, I remember my bosses saying, you really shouldn't talk about this. They didn't say if you survive, but I know everyone was thinking this. If you survive, they'll always look at you as the breast cancer reporter. And I said, I don't care. I was so angry that, I was told that I was fine, even though I felt a lump, that I felt like I had to warn every woman out there that if you feel something,
don't think that you're crazy,
and you have a negative mammogram, you've got to pursue this. So
you've got to be your own advocate.
Yes. So we went big with us. And it was a week-long series following my journey and the journey of other women with breast cancer. We did mammographies, free mammographies, all over the city. I'm so proud of the awareness that we brought to breast cancer at the time. And then I got an Emmy for it. And, you know, the real reward and the trophy moment was the thousands of letters. You have to, you know, before cell phones, before email, have suitcases full of letters.
Do you still have them?
Yeah. From women who wrote to say, I never had a mammogram, but you inspired me. Or I had a mammogram and they found a lump, but I'm going to be okay. I wouldn't have found it. You know, husbands saying, I watched your series and I made sure my wife went to get a mammogram. And I know that we saved lives. And I was just 35 and I realized right then a number of lessons. One, just the power of a personal story that helps others, educates others, inspires others. And second, that life obviously is too short to be wasted. And I learned that at a very young age. And in fact, 10 years after breast cancer, I got kidney cancer. So
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew about the breast cancer.
Yeah, 2-time cancer survivor. So again and again, life was giving me this message that you better live it full out. You know, and if you're stuck, you better find a way to fix this, because no day, you can't take the day for granted. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And I feel like, strangely, that was the gift of breast cancer to me, and the trials and tribulations.
So where did you receive this?
So this is...
And did everybody see this?
Yeah, this is an Emmy from NATIS, the National... Oh, now NATIS, the National Association Academy of Television
Arts and Sciences.
Thank goodness,
it's on the top.
I should know that, right? And
I love that you've got this beautiful tape that's holding
this
it together.
Gaffer tape. See, and I knew, like, when you came into my life, Keith, I'm like, hey, could you fix an Emmy? And you said, well, you know, if you get it to me, probably can do something with it. And friends of mine said, you know, you can just reorder and get a new Emmy.
But it's not the one that you received.
The Emmy, right? It's not the Emmy. So this was truly, I would say, maybe the most important life-altering.
Because it represents a lot more than the recognition. It represents the passion and what you did and the message that you created. It represents, I would imagine, those letters that you have after all those years.
Right. From
all those different people that you affected.
Right. And look, you know, winning the Emmy was nice. Cool. Surviving is better. Yeah. Right? Surviving is better, but also knowing that you help others, which I know that you and I, this is where we agree completely. We agree on a lot of things, but this is where you have dedicated yourself as well to helping others around you, whether it's your employees or your friends or your family or your, you know, other business owners. In everything you do.
Enough about me.
You are trying to lift other people up. And so that's why, of course, well, I have to say this because that's why I adore you and all that you do, and why you say, come be the first podcast. I'm like, I am there, dude.
So it's a perfect segue into the first.
Okay.
So when I first started down my journey after meeting you and committing to you that I was going to do my year of first, I came home, and I've got a younger sister, and I told her what I was doing, these first. And she looked at me, and I told her some of the things, and I stole some of your firsts, and I had some of my own firsts that I wanted to do that I was curious about. And she said to me, are you dying?
Right.
Because
that sounds cray-cray.
Well, it's when people are diagnosed with a terminal disease,
right?
What do?
Bucket list.
Bingo. They do things that they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you have allowed me to live life like I'm dying. And fortunately, I do not have a terminal disease as I stand here. I haven't been diagnosed, and I hopefully don't have one. But you have allowed me to live life like I'm dying. And I try to communicate that to others, and I know that that's what you do. So now I'm going to turn it on you.
This is the hard part.
Yeah. So the first part was trophy moment, which was amazing. The amount of people that, some of that story I knew, some of the story I did not know. And thank you for sharing.
Sure.
So what's a first? And you've done so many firsts. You inspired me. You wrote a book about them. What is the first that you still want to do?
I think a lot of it involves travel now, to see parts of the world. And I've been really lucky as a reporter. I was sent
sure you've traveled
to a lot of places, but there are a lot of places I've never been. I want to go to
your top 3.
Australia. I got a lot of A's. Australia, Alaska. I really want. I just came back from Spain, so that checked one off.
Barcelona.
I went to Barcelona, Madrid.
So there's another A. Help us, audience. What's another
could
A?
be Antarctica.
Oh, Antarctica.
Argentina. I don't know.
But Australia came to mind
Australia.
first.
I really want to go to Australia. I've not been to Asia. Oh, man, that was it.
Okay.
I haven't been to Asia. I haven't been to that part of the world at all.
So when you doing it?
Well,
I want you to write it down and commit to me.
Well, I will tell you.
Like you had me do that day.
Yeah. Well, all right. What do we got? Australia, Asia, and Alaska.
Okay.
Asia, Alaska, the A's, the A list. Okay.
Australia's on my list. I've been to Alaska.
Well, when you plan your group to Australia, count me in. I'm ready. Plan that trip.
Okay.
The other first is going to be transitioning out of my full-time job, maybe within the year. And this is really hard, and I don't know.
I don't know a lot about your career at Temple.
Yeah. So I work a full-time job plus everything else.
Your speaking engagements.
Right. But I realize now, again, I'm going through another time in my life. I'm 66, and you go, how many years do you get when you are able, right? Really able to travel and feel good, and go see all the things, as much as I have a lot of freedom in my job, I love, and I'm never going to leave Temple. I'm always going to teach. I'll always be there. I'm, teaching.
You could be a part-time professor.
Right. But I am ready to step away and be open to some of the other things that I can do, ways I can give back. How many times have you invited me to, hey, come to this breakfast meeting? I'm like,
I've got things to do.
I can't make it because I got this meeting with I'm ready to have more freedom, which is challenging too, because all my life has been very scheduled and tight and running from this and running from that. I'm going through
the same thing. My father said to me, I'm trying to heed his advice. He says, do it while you can.
Right.
He was in Italy on the trip of his lifetime in his 70s when cancer came back. And he couldn't participate in the group going to the Colosseum or the various, and he came back and he died so many months after. And he said to me before he passed, do it while you can, to your point.
And this is, and while we are trying to live fully every day, we realize there, the job, and we're very fortunate that we can go out there. Not everyone can.
Nope.
But I feel very fortunate that I'm in a position that I could step back now and do more, get more of those first-time experiences in that I want, that I always said, well, I got to wait for, this, I got to wait for that. And like you say, we shouldn't be waiting. My husband is 7 years older than me. He's 71. And he's kind of been like, come on, let's go. This is it.
So I'm daring the person, the queen of dare, to get to Australia in the next year.
I'm game. Like, come May, like, sign me up. You're the travel dude, right?
Okay. I'm going to work on this for you.
I am there. I am so there.
See, I'd go with you. I'd have to talk to my wife. She doesn't want to travel that far in the air.
Oh, well, that is another dare, because I've traveled to Israel. I've traveled to the Middle East. I think that's the farthest I've gone.
Yeah.
That's a long way to go.
Yes.
And if you're going to go that far, you want to go for a while.
Yes.
I'm a good flyer as long as there's no turbulence. I'm great. Just like, don't let me know I'm up in the air and everything's quiet. I'm good.
So I'm going to go back a little bit then.
Okay.
Since we have a little bit of time.
Okay.
What are you doing now? You said you're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have? Do you have any speaking engagements?
Well, it's funny you asked. Tomorrow night, I have the opportunity to have a conversation with the woman who's the host of Jewish Matchmaker. It's a reality show on Netflix.
Okay.
And so I've been invited to have a sit-down conversation
But you're married.
with her. Yes. Why are they having me do it? But because
does your husband know that you're doing this show?
Yes. Well, we are actually going to have like a little matchmaking game there with some singles.
Oh.
No, yeah.
So you're going to be on
Oh, no, it's her. Her name is Eliza Ben Shalom, and she has a really good show. It's very interesting, and so I'm doing that, in front of a couple hundred people tomorrow night, and then we'll see. My toughest and the best audiences are my students. Every time I get in front of them, it's a show, man. You got to do a lot to keep their eyeballs on you.
What's the course? I sign up at Temple University. What am I signing up for?
Well, this semester, I'm teaching media performance.
Okay.
So how to be up in front of the camera, how to present yourself, how to speak, what to do with your hands, everything that you do in front of the camera. So that's a semester of that. And then in the spring, I'm teaching, and I always teach the freshman professional development. And I love this course because this is where we really talk about professional behavior, resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, online, in person, how to get an internship, all of those things, but through the lens of someone going into media and communication. Right. And because this is a tough industry to get into, we start working with them as soon as they get in to college. And I think
Do you help them with internships?
Yeah. I think Klein College at Temple University has one of the best media and communication colleges in the country.
How long have you been there?
I've been there 8 years,
really?
And many of my colleagues are from the industry, so they're learning from people who've done it. Mark Zumoff, who's just the voice of the 76ers, is one of our professors. There's so many folks like him.
Do you get into
may have heard of.
first or daring them in your class?
You know what? I always, it's funny you ask that. It always comes up. It always comes up because
research you and
they're
they know?
Terrified. No. But I'm always daring them to do new things, and they're like, I'm afraid to go on the interview. I'm afraid to go to the career fair. And that's when I talk to them about doing new things and how important it is. So I'm constantly pushing them and telling them, I know how you feel. I have done it. So I'm always teaching and saying, but I'm doing it too. I do it every day as well. So I really look to inspire them because that's the secret of life, right? Of being
the most
willing
successful people, the greatest teacher is failure. So if you go on that interview, you're scared. You don't go on that interview. You're never going to know how to interview.
Right.
Even if you bomb.
Right. They're afraid.
You learn.
We're all afraid to fail.
Yep.
you know, but sometimes it's just as simple, you know, I noticed.
That's why I thought this daring was just so key to learning.
Yeah. Right. Because if you're
It
not
stretches
willing to
you.
take a risk,
Yes.
if you're not willing to fail, or maybe feel a little embarrassed or whatever it is because you don't do it perfectly, then you'll never achieve or do new things. You'll always stay in your comfort zone. And I point out to students, and it happens every semester, after the second week, all students end up sitting in the same seat. In every one of their classrooms, they pick a seat.
Yep.
And they stay in that seat. They don't move. And I'll challenge them and say, who told you to sit in that seat? Nobody. Well, have you been sitting in that seat all semester? Yeah. Why?
People don't like change.
Because, and then they get mad if someone else comes and sits in there. Like,
you're
in my seat. Who said that was your seat? This is what we do in our life.
Yeah.
We get stuck and comfortable in our little seat, and we don't want to move. And the lessons of daring and doing new things is that when we're so comfortable and we're not doing things because we're afraid, like, I don't know what that long flight to Australia would be like, right? Yeah, it kind of scares me. But I don't get to Australia unless I go do it. We don't get to experience so much unless we're willing to push beyond those safe boundaries we put around ourselves.
And I thank you for allowing me to do a number of those things. I thought about you a lot of times. Like I would have never, ever said yes to stand-up comedy without your inspiration.
That has got to be the scariest thing.
I'm not funny. I can't remember a joke. And in front of people, I'm a recovering shy person. But what's the worst that can happen? I bomb, but I learned.
Right. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. So it was like, oh, well, I've never done that before. And I said, well, it's a first. Okay.
Yes.
It gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to say yes to some of these challenges that you dared me on.
And it also teaches you to be flexible, to be, to ride with what happens.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, we can't control everything. And for those who are not used to dealing with uncertainty or something comes at you, as you did during the pandemic, where you had to reinvent everything and reinvent your company and find your employees new jobs. That comes from somebody who was practicing dares and doing new things.
You interviewed me. I don't know if you remember this. You came out to my office and interviewed me after the fact. And you said to me, how did doing first affect you? And I gave you some answers. I learned. It gave me hope. It got me out of my comfort zone. And then you said to me, you may learn things later on that you don't even realize. And it hit me. Your voice was in my head and it came back to me what my sister said. Live life like you're dying. And that's what you allowed me. Hopefully you allow your readers, the people that are able to see you on stage, your students. I thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure always. I'm so grateful you came to that one day where I'm speaking and that
You're grateful. I'm really grateful.
got to meet, you know, and that we can continue this friendship and this sharing of dares. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is the wrap for our my very first podcast, Trophy Moments with a Few Firsts, with Lou Ann Cahn, my distinguished guest. Thank you very much.